Welcome to Black Woman Leading the podcast. I'm Laura Knight, your host and founder of BlackWomanLeading.com. Today, we are talking about amplifying your strengths with Dr. Elizabeth Adams. If you are tired of playing small and want to toot your own horn about the skills and value you bring, if you have been wondering how to optimize what you already have in this current job market, and if you want tips on how to leverage AI along your career development journey, then you need to keep listening. Let's get into it. This podcast amplifies the needs and experiences of Black women leaders in the workplace with a holistic focus on three core areas: leadership development, mental wellness, and relationship management. Our ultimate aim is to help Black women learn, heal, and grow in their leadership capacity. Get ready, sis. The Black Woman Leading Live Conference and Retreat is back for our 4th annual event. And this year, we're leveling up. In 2026, we're developing future-ready leaders. Leaders prepared to rise, adapt, and thrive in a world that's changing every single day. Designed by Black women for Black women, this is a one-of-a-kind professional development experience. You go deep into the heart work and the head work, the alignment, strategy, clarity, and confidence you need to boldly walk into your next level. This year, we're spotlighting the skills and mindsets that define future-ready leadership, navigating disruption, leading through change, anticipating opportunity, and adapting with resilience and vision. Whether you're an emerging, mid-career, or senior leader, this space was created with you in mind. True to our cultural roots, we learn in community, across generations, across experiences, and across our shared brilliance. You'll be surrounded by Black women leaders, coaches, and experts, including direct learning from yours truly as the creator of the Black Woman Leading programs and podcasts. If you are ready for transformation, if you are ready to expand your leadership and your wellness, if you're ready to prepare not only for what's now, but what's next, then you belong here. Join us at Black Woman Leading Live, May 11th through the 14th in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Save your seat at www.bwlretreat.com. Your future-ready leadership journey starts today. All right. So, hey, everybody. Today we are talking about amplifying your strengths with Dr. Elizabeth Adams. Welcome, Dr. Adams.
Well, hello, and thank you so much for having me. I bring you greetings from a very, very wonderful city in Minneapolis. Yes. And I look forward to engaging in the conversation today.
Wonderful. We're so excited to have you. I really want to get into this topic, but before we get into it, let me give you all the official on Dr. Adams. Dr. Elizabeth M. Adams is a global authority in responsible AI, guiding societies and institutions through the age of artificial intelligence. An award-winning strategist, TEDx speaker, and LinkedIn top voice, she is a trusted source for industry, academia, nonprofits, and government leaders worldwide. As CEO of EMA Advisory Services, she helps organizations align culture, leadership, and innovation with ethical, human-centered AI. Her influence spans global stages, from the United Nations to policy labs in Sweden, translating responsible AI into scalable, values-driven action. Recognized by Forbes as one of the 15 AI ethics leaders showing the world the way of the future, she bridges research, policy, and enterprise to ensure AI leadership is accountable, empowered, and transformative. So I always say nobody's going to be on this show that doesn't have the receipts, baby.
Yes.
And as you can see, Dr. Adams has the receipts for the girls. Okay.
I do. I've been doing the work. The work.
She's been doing the work. We met, was it 2 years ago?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Shout out to SysTech, an amazing organization doing work with women leaders and professionals in technology and data. We were both speakers. Dr. Adams was the keynote that year, and I was a speaker there. And we connected there. And since then, I've had her on my radar, like, she's going to get on this podcast. She's going to do something with us. She's also speaking at our conference and retreat this year. So we finally made this thing happen. So excited about that. But why this topic? One, we definitely want to tap into some of Dr. Adams' AI expertise, of course. But when we talked, what really brought up this topic around like really amplifying our strengths. I think the season is timely, right? We have so many Black women. We hear the reports, right, with the layoffs and everything impacting Black women. So we're definitely going to get kind of an AI angle on how we can use some of those tools. But I really wanted to talk about, because Dr. Adams' work is expansive in looking at leadership, workforce development, and all that as well, to say, how can we leverage some of these strengths we have, right? I feel like it's so often I see, because we know Black women are often the most educated ones in the room. We got 11 degrees, right? Certifications. And I feel like sometimes the go-to is, let me go get one more thing to make myself more marketable in the workforce and whatever you're doing. But we don't really need more stuff. I don't think so. And so want to talk to Dr. Adams and get her perspective on how do we leverage the strengths that we do have, all the work, the receipts we do have, and create some strategy for really optimizing those existing resources, assets, and values we add. So that's how we came to this topic, and definitely about to jump into this and get some of this wisdom and insight from Dr. Adams. But first, Dr. Adams, we always ask all of our guests before we get into our topic, what does the phrase Black woman leading mean to you? And I read your bio, but share just a little bit of the unscripted of your journey as a real life Black woman leading and how you kind of come to this current space of doing this work.
Yeah, well, thank you for the wonderful introduction. Thank you for creating space for us to be here to share our journey, our wisdom, our expertise. Thank you for making it a safe space for us to just talk as girls, even though it's expanded across the world. But let me just say that where I am today was not where I was 10 years ago when I started in the AI space, or even 30 years or 20 years before that when I started leading technology teams. But what AI has done for me is it has kind of elevated this topic around how we are living with AI, its disruptive power, how are we thinking about it from a workforce innovation perspective. And that led me to kind of tap inside to figure out, where do I want to play in this space? I got a lot of notoriety around my work with the city of Minneapolis, a couple Stanford fellowships, but I really wasn't centering me. I was centering what I thought, people might want to hear about AI trends and AI tools, but I got lost and my voice got flattened. And so what I did was what it means to me is to tap into my own brilliance, not be compared or not compare myself to what others are doing, how much money they're making, what organizations they're leading, but finding my own unique space in this particular climate or age of AI. So what it means to me, again, is really just tapping into my own brilliance. But I had to spend time to figure out what that was. And then I had to start acting more boldly about it and unapologetically around my expertise, and start calling myself Dr. Adams. I worked hard. That's a major investment. And so part of that, I know we talked about we don't need more certificates or degrees, but I had a curiosity to explore what we were doing in the age of AI. And so that took me to that course, but then just own it. I own scholarship. I'm one of the few in the world who, or maybe the only, that has a doctorate in leadership of responsible AI. So, but I had to kind of take a step back and say, how do I own who I am and my contributions to the world as an individual first, and then collectively partnering with those who might share the same vision?
Yeah, I love it. And that this concept of being a Black woman leading is about like owning that unapologetically. But also what I hear and what led us to this topic is like, it's one thing to be like clear on what I bring to the table, but the strategy, right, of where does it fit in this current context, right? Because
Yes.
you had some of these same skills, like you said, 10 years ago, or strengths, but how you're leveraging them today is totally different, right? And that's definitely what we want to get into today. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had to do an assessment. Actually, you and I talked. I use AI to kind of help me with some sort of an executive statement, skill stacking, job stacking, which I know we'll get into, so that I could really own my power and start communicating it and crystallizing that message, and really crystallizing the message of who I wanted the world to know that I am. And so even my bio has changed. I'm unapologetic about my accomplishments, and they land where they land. Right. And they're my truth. And so I'm okay with my truth going out into the world and landing in whatever spaces it's supposed to land, because those are the rooms and the tables that will welcome me. And those are the ones where I have maximum output and impact.
Yeah. Let's talk about these rooms, right? Because I remember when we talked, and I love this perspective, right? Because so often when we talk about being at the table, working the room, there's sometimes an assumption that we got to have the mic in the room, right? We got to be the main one facilitating the room. And that's good too. That's good
It
too,
is.
right? If you get the mic. But I know you talked about when we met, and I thought it was just such a great angle around being present in the room and leveraging being in the space, even if you're not the primary leader, speaker, facilitator. Can you talk a little bit about that and how Black women can use that presence, listening, observation, participation to really amplify their strengths and influence?
Yeah, so I'll lead up to that by talking about a unique opportunity that I saw, and this is something for Black women. I saw an opportunity to apply for a trade mission to go to Germany and Switzerland with the Governor Tim Walz, and his cabinet. And through the Minnesota Responsible AI Institute, an organization that I founded this year to help shape and influence responsible AI in the state and abroad. And once I was accepted, I thought, oh, I don't really know what to do. I haven't been to a trade mission before. So I had to think about what that meant. I knew the strengths and the talents and the gifts that I brought. But what happened was I was in so many different rooms. I was at so many different universities. We were on tour at these different colleges and these different startups. There were receptions every night. And when I tell you, the soil was rich, because people go to trade missions to do business. They're not just there to network and say, hi, I think what you're doing is amazing. It's how can we partner? How can we move societies forward? And so once I realized, I said, oh, this is different. This is different than, oh, I saw you on LinkedIn. None of these people had any idea of who I really was other than this trade delegation book. So the way I angled that was I saw all of these people and understood that they were movers and shakers, so to speak. So I found myself passing out my business card. I know people might think that that's old school. Most of the networking events were tagging each other and scanning LinkedIn profiles, but I brought business cards because I wanted to make sure that people saw my name and saw the organization that I represented. And even when I left, they were still left with something, and not my LinkedIn profile. They were left with my card. And so what being in the room meant for me was understanding who these people were, listening, observing. So, you're moving around, getting food, and being okay with going up and saying, hi, I'm Dr. Elizabeth Adams. I'm part of the trade mission. I'm here to X, Y, and Z. And then you just start conversations. And then the next thing you know, you have like-minded goals, and you start connecting. So for me, it was about the rooms. I probably was in over 25 rooms. And that means from a lunchroom to a university room to a reception to various classrooms. I can't even begin to tell you, the hotel lobby, they're all rooms where you can just take advantage of that and move around and let people know who you are. Now, that has led to a number of follow-on conversations. And not only that, I was in the room with the governor and the first lady. Several of the tours I took, she was on. So we got a chance to talk about education, higher education, responsible AI. So we weren't necessarily at a table, but we were shoulder to shoulder, right?
Yeah.
Talking about the things that are important to me, but in order for me to talk about what was important to me, I had to understand what was important to her and then leverage the commonalities, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So this is good because I'm always looking for the process and the strategy. Let's distill a couple of things out of this.
Yes.
So let's talk about this listening, because I think sometimes people get this anxiety around networking or being in these rooms, right? That this is the first time you're in this room. You've never been to this before. There's this anxiety about like, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say? But what I'm hearing is spend the time observing, listening, kind of consuming who is in the room, what's their vantage point, what's their interest base, and let that be the guide of how you're going to position yourself for the introduction, for the conversation. So it's good to have your elevator pitch. You need to have a couple of things top of mind.
Correct.
But I'm hearing you say, let me sit back and see what they're talking about and then see what's the Venn diagram overlap to what I want to talk about and kind of enter in that way.
I love that. I wouldn't have put it that way, but that is fantastic, the way you kind of just described it.
That's one of my strengths.
No, I love that. That's exactly what happened while I'm getting some cheese or whatever it is. I'm hearing someone talk about that they were running the film festival in Zurich. Oh, that's fascinating. So then I talk about how fascinating that is and how I wanted to take my doctoral research and turn it into a short film. And then, do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
But I was like, oh, this was an interest of mine. Here is the president of the Zurich International Film Festival, like 2 feet away from me. So it didn't necessarily start with AI. It started with hearing what this person was doing and finding a connection. It doesn't mean there'll always be connections, if that makes sense. Yeah. And then I had a couple of colleagues that joined in Zurich and one that joined in Berlin, and they also added a nice conversation to the environment as well, because they're local and they have some insights. And so it just really made the environment that more enriching for me. But let me just say this. I was the only Black woman in the room. The only. Every time we went somewhere, I was the only Black person in the room, Zurich, Dusseldorf, and Berlin. But did that stop me? Absolutely not. I was the only one who went in the higher ed delegation. And so when you talk about Black women leading, it means being in these spaces where maybe we are the only one. But does that matter? If you understand your brilliance, you can connect with anyone, whether it's a prince or a sanitation worker. Doesn't matter to me. We all have something in common. So it's that listening, observing, seeing where people are moving. What are the thoughts? How is this society being shaped? And then how does my work connect to that? And then bridging that through conversation.
Yeah, I love it. And I mean, it's really kind of marketing storytelling 101, if we're really thinking about it. Like, so often we want to lead with what we do. But this is really about what is happening with the people that you are interacting with, and how can you come really from a place of curiosity, true connection, relationship building, and find where is the overlap, where then we can really find some connection and possibly some collaboration opportunities as well.
Absolutely. And I would say one unique skill that I have is repeating back to the person what I thought I heard, but in a way that sounds elevated, if you know what I mean. So I was in at the university, at one university in Zurich, and they talked about how they bring people through society through either academic pathway or a trade school pathway. And so what I said at the end, I said, this was really fascinating, but it sounds like to me, if you could help me understand, is that you all support more communal ambition versus individual ambition. Like, you believe that everyone has a place in the world, whether they go the trade mission route to be, an auto mechanic or something else, or they take the academic route to be, a professor. And no one had described their society to them in that way.
Wow.
But I thought it was fantastic. So again, repeating back to people what you hear and giving them their props for the work that they're doing, whether it's local to you or somewhere halfway around the country.
I love it. And we would call that in leadership competency language, synthesizing, right? Learning to really pull that. That's a strategic leadership skill.
And
I love it.
sensing. And
yes.
sensing.
And sensing. Yes. So, okay. I feel like I jumped ahead a little bit. Let's say somebody is listening to this and they're like, oh, that's good. But what if I'm not clear on what my kind of strengths are? You hinted at a little bit of that journey you went through to really kind of distill and pull that out for yourself. What insight, advisory would you give to someone who needs to pull the exact language? I need to have my 5 things that I know are my key strengths that I really bring to insight. Where can they kind of pull some of that data to get that for themselves?
Well, that's a great question. But before I can jump there, I think that there is some work that we have to do on ourselves.
Yes.
One, because we might be operating from limiting beliefs. So let me tell you what I did. It's kind of like 6 steps what I did.
Okay.
And I got it here in front of me to make sure that I understood it. So most of us are working or we're trying to work. And so we've got professional obligations. We've got family obligations. We've got all kinds of obligations. You have to find the space in life where you can start in terms of making some corrections. For me, that was personal because I had the work stuff I have to do. I've got obligations and clients. But from a personal perspective, what I had to do is I had to let go of things that were uneasy, that made me feel uneasy, that were not peaceful. That's friends, family, holiday gatherings. I don't care, you name it. When I show up, it just feels icky, I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
I just had to stop. And then what that did was it created space for me to start gaining some clarity around what do I do like, right?
Wow.
Maybe I like brunch instead of happy hour, or maybe I like this type of networking event with executive women versus a whole bunch of women. Like, I'm just saying, it just gave me that space to kind of get clear. Then I could, once I started naming what I like, start crafting a more professional angle. So stop taking assignments that were unaligned and taking assignments that were more aligned, even if they weren't bringing me the money right off the bat. But it made me feel good, right? So I started with the personal, getting things out of the way, created space, got some clarity. And then I started shifting my professional angle. And what that did was it gave me an expanded focus. So I was no longer looking at what someone else was doing. I was no longer trying to compare myself. I'm like, oh, the world is my oyster. Now maybe I am going to do more trade missions, or maybe I am going to go travel across the world to go speak. But what that did, and this is the next piece, it gave me a new leadership arc. So what people might have thought they knew about me 3 years ago, here I am standing in my absolute brilliance because I've done the work of getting here. Now I'm still doing things out there, right? But it's this inner work that I had to do. And from there, that's when I gained the confidence, the new language. I use AI to help me with that. I'm feeling this way. These are the circles I want to travel in. What does that look like? And I will tell you, when AI told me that I wasn't a moment, I was a movement.
Ooh, come on, AI. Okay, AI.
What? Should have never said that to me. Should have never said that to me. Because I'm here to tell you, I leaned in all the way into that. I said, say more.
Wow.
And I said, what you know about me, all the presentations you've helped me do, the emails, what does that mean? And it came back with this beautiful kind of mosaic of things that I said, oh, okay. And so I've used AI for that. I've used it to go and create a podcast about me using Notebook LLM. So I've used these tools to help me get clear about it before stepping into it with friends and colleagues, because they may not see you the same way. They may see you as, oh, we have a good time, and that's all they can see you as. Yeah. But maybe you see yourself connecting with kings and queens, as an example. And you don't know how to get there from where you are. And so that's when you have to create this personal safe space for yourself and begin to explore that and then start testing that in the professional spaces.
Well, come on with some steps. I love some steps.
Yes.
No, this is what I love about it though, because we call what you just went through, talked about that inner work. We call it the heart work in Black Woman Leading Land, right? And it's that inner work that is really needed to reclaim. And first of all, not just understand and define the strengths, but like you said, boldly own them, right? Boldly own them. And so what I heard is before you could even get the clarity, you had to clear some stuff out. And that was people, events. That takes a little bit of courage, because telling folks, no, I'm not coming over there for Thanksgiving dinner, and you've been there for 35 years. That takes some courage. What was the ugly part of that? What was the ugly part of that?
The ugly part was lost friendships and relationships with family that they feel are strained, but I feel like I'm protecting my boundaries and I'm more peaceful. And I have to be okay with that, because sometimes we get into relationships based on a number of different things, but we should be allowed to evolve. And in my process of evolving, there are some people that either think I'm too good for them or whatever the case. And I had to just say, okay. I had one friend tell me that, oh, it sounds like you have found your voice. So what did that mean before that I didn't?
What did that mean before? Yes.
Right. So I said, okay. And so it was also things where I just started noticing when I started getting celebrated in the AI space, when I started the Harvards and the MITs and all these Stanfords were calling me, I started seeing the reactions of people who were closest to me. And I said, oh, okay. So as long as I was out here struggling, still trying to figure out what I wanted to do and where I was going, and this opportunity didn't work out, you could be there for the wounded wing. But when that wing was ready to fly out the nest, there wasn't the support. And I wasn't mad at them. That was their gift. I don't need that support.
Yeah.
And if we can't evolve together, right? The other thing I'm going to be honest with is I think sometimes we as Black women, we have girlfriends, we think that the intimate connection is sharing this trauma and trauma bonding all day, every day. And I had to tell people, you've got good insurance. So you should be connecting with a therapist, someone who is trained.
You said it's not It's not my skill set, ma'am.
I'm not a good container.
Yes.
I'm not a good container for all the weary things in life. And I know we're going to talk about joy, but that was one of the things I realized when I was creating space. I like more joyful talk. I like to know what your dreams are. I could stay up all night for that. But when you want to talk to me for 3 hours about your boss, that's not friendship to me. That's dumping. And then when you say, oh, I feel better, but I don't.
Yes.
Right. So that was some of the work that I had to do. But I also had to acknowledge that I allowed some of these behaviors and patterns and give myself grace.
Yes.
And then just start moving on.
I love it. I love it. So this identifying these strengths and then being able to boldly step into them requires some of that hard work of making space, setting boundaries, reclaiming maybe some things you allowed that was not helping you to be your best self. And then also accepting that might be the end of something, some relationships.
It might be the end.
Some, connections, because like you said, at a season, and now some things are just for a season, at a season that was there. But as I'm evolving and you're not able to go there with me, I can with love and grace release you.
And not be mad, because that's your gift. If your gift is the wounded wing, if your gift is whatever it is, but that's not a gift that I need. If that's, do you know what I mean? If that's not what I need now, I'm not mad at you. Don't be mad at me. But let's wish each other the best, and let's shine. Let's continue to shine and separately.
Yeah. Yep. Love it. Okay, come on. Let me kind of tear that off and get to the other part. So we talked about the hard work. Let's go to the head work, which is the tactical stuff. Now, we cannot have a bona fide global AI expert in the house and not get into, we need the prompts, sister. We need all these kind of things. So let's talk about using AI as a support tool, right? What are some practical ways? And you talked a little bit about how you leveraged it, but want to get more of that insight from you. What are ways that, Black women listening can use AI to help them clarify those strengths, articulate their value, prepare talking points? whatever that is that they are, on the career journey. Share a little bit of your kind of tips and tricks for that.
Yeah, first off, kind of be honest. Like, be honest, use AI as a partner, as if you have this very expensive marketing partner or PR partner, or I don't know, sounding board, and then just start asking some honest questions. And it started for me when I said, look, this is what I said, look, my friends are doing X, Y, and Z, and I have not. So this started my journey to stop comparing. Right.
I see.
And that's when it said, this is what you're doing. You're in more transformational spaces. They are in more transactional spaces. It can be very hard to be a transformational person in a transactional space, meaning they were getting contracts where they're going to train 4,000 people. I didn't want that. I had to be honest. That's not what I wanted. What I wanted is what I'm doing, which is helping societies evolve and shape. That's really my forte and where I see. So that means, who do I need to connect with? I need to connect with the highest in the land. That's the governors. That's the princes. That's the presidents. That's the, you know what I'm saying? The diplomats. That's all the things. And that's when I said, okay, I know where I want to go. I didn't know how to get there, but I also didn't know how to name the tension I was feeling. And so that's what I used the prompts for. And I started keeping a list. So I think it was called Becoming or something like that, where every time I had a question about something, I go back to that conversation and I would just add different things. Yeah. The other thing is I recently taught a course for executive women who want to speak more confidently in AI. And I also use AI to break things down like a 10-year-old. And this was one of my suggestions. So if you're going into a big meeting and maybe you're not as confident as you want to, I will take an article and I say, repeat this and synthesize this like a 10-year-old. Yeah. Okay. Now give me some executive ready speak, just so I can pull out some words maybe when I'm talking. So there's different ways to utilize it based on what you want. The other thing is there's there's a Notebook LLM where I plugged in my LinkedIn profile and the links to my two websites, eadams.tech and the Minnesota Responsible AI Institute. And I said, give me an executive profile. And it created a podcast about me. Wow. And I said, oh, okay, this is incredible. Because remember, as I said, if you're speaking to your friends, they're going to see a portion of you and maybe what you allow them to see or you talk about. And then if you talk to another colleague. But what this did is it pulled all of these different sources. And I also did like a Google link of talks that I've done, and it pulled it all together. And that's how I now create my bio. That's why my bio sounds the way it sounds, because I was forgetting things or I was looking at someone else's bio and I'm like, no, this is the story I want to tell. Yeah. So I used AI to really just be honest about when I was facing a struggle. And if I had not, I might still be continuing in transactional spaces when my heart is really in the transformational work.
I love it. And I think too, there are some people that's like, I'm going to use AI to help me with everything and I'm going to copy and paste exactly what it said into where I'm going. There are some people that's like, nope, that's cheating. I'm not doing anything with AI, right? And so as I'm hearing you, I use AI a lot as a sparring partner, as a thought partner, generate ideas, things of the sort as well. And so if I went into my chat GPT now, I could give it that prompt and say, of all the stuff, the
that you know about me,
you've been helping me do. But let's say somebody is just getting started with using chat. They're going in, it's no threads, it's no chats. What are some of those beginning things if you're just getting started with using AI tools that can help you start to build up to be able to really use it as a partner in this way for your career development?
Yeah, I would upload my resume and I'd say, based on my resume, present an executive profile for me, one that I can use when I speak. I'm interested in my top 10 strengths that you can find from here, or the particular opportunities that might be best for my strengths. Like you start somewhere and then you kind of mold the conversation. If you're not getting the results, then you say, I'm interested in more of this. But I would start with the resume or their LinkedIn page.
LinkedIn page. Okay. So you got some tips here. To help you identify. We're trying to help the people now.
We try to help the people.
We're trying to help the people to help you use these tools that are here to help you leverage some of these things you have, or to, like you said, the messaging is powerful, right? It's one thing if you get all the receipts in the world, but if you don't know how to talk about it, when you get in front of the people, you still are not going to get the opportunities. So using these tips that Dr. Adams is giving you can help you get some of that language to really help you, leverage these opportunities when you get an audience with people and with, in these different rooms you might be in.
Yeah. And like I said, be honest. If you are into swimming, ask it to refine based on your real interest and not what you think someone else might want to hear about who you are and what you've done. Like and that's where the skill stacking and the job stacking come in. Really, just really think about how to leverage AI, or ask it, what are the skills that you see from my LinkedIn profile, my resume, and this is my interest. This is what I'm curious about. Create this stack of skills and then help me figure out what types of jobs there might be out there for me, or an interest that I could pursue. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
So this gets into career discovery and direction we can use it for. And this is not just for our early career folks that's getting started. This is, you've been working for 30 years, but you want to do something different, or you want to use your skills in a different way. You can use some of these prompts to help you with your pivot, with realigning, with going in a new direction. Now, you've referenced the job stacking and the skill stacking a few times. I want to talk about those, but can you just give some definitions of what those two things are, and then we can dive into those a little bit?
Yeah, I'll start with skill stacking. So skill stacking is taking skills that relate to your strengths and stacking them to create a powerful leadership arc about who you are. So if you're good at communicating, you're good at storytelling, maybe you're also good at organization, maybe you are good at synthesizing, like you said, whatever those strengths are, you're stacking them, right? So you understand what your limitations are. And so many times people tell us to work on our weaknesses. This is kind of the opposite. This is saying, no, I'm sure I've got at least 15 skills that I'm really, really good at. And I want to stack them to understand what my leadership arc is, who I am, and what does that mean? Once you have that, right? So it's this kind of executive or whatever leadership summary of your skills. And I've led courses where I've asked participants to then ask ChatGPT to create a 2-sentence executive statement just on the skills.
Okay.
I'm good at such and such. I have, the innate ability to do X, Y, and Z. It comes up with these amazing things. I've also done it for high schoolers. So now that you have that, then you also have what are the possible lowest barrier to entry jobs that you can do with those skills. So for me, I probably have about 6 jobs. I'm not even going to lie, because that works. That works for me. I do keynotes, right? I'm a panelist. I'm an author. I have 4 children's books. I'm also designing AI courses for the University of Minnesota. I'm going to be teaching those courses for the University of Minnesota. I write, I do research. This works for me. And so what are the types of jobs that give me fulfillment, but don't have me in conflict with one another? So my teaching and my designing the courses, I can do that. That's part-time work. I can still travel around the world and still do my keynotes and still do the panels. Does that make sense? So I'm very good at that. And then my research, well, I can write and research anywhere, right? So that's not a problem. So and I get paid for these things, but that works for me. And so what I mean by the job stacking is these were the lowest barrier to entry jobs that align with my skills, that provide fulfillment. Maybe people want to go into one organization and do one job for them. That's fine. But at least understand what your skills are and where in that organization might you best fit. Now, I did this exercise with some high schoolers, and we asked, after they came up with their skills, skills. They were very interested in Gen AI. So the next prompt was based on this statement, and it was called a leadership statement for them, not an executive statement. What types of Gen AI roles might be best for me? So we had some people who were interested in photography, some people who were interested in gaming, some people who were interested in music, some people who were interested in sports.
Yeah.
And it was able to give them each an idea. And then we asked them how much would that role make? And then what's the educational requirement for that, so that they could have some sort of a path.
Yeah.
And I would suggest the same thing is once you have your skills, figure out what type of job you want. Maybe it's a company you want, and then ask it to what are the requirements that might help you get there. So you have some sort of an idea of what the path might be to get you to your skill stacking and job stacking. And I would surmise by saying that for me, this is probably the best time in my life where I've really felt whole with the work that I do, because I've taken a step back, right? I got some clarity. I know what my skills are. I know the types of jobs that work for me. None of them are in conflict. So no company can say you have a conflict of interest. You shouldn't be working over here. And that's what job stacking has done for me. And I think it's especially powerful in this economy where we don't really know what the future is going to hold. So maybe you're working part-time as an assistant at a dental office because you are a good communicator and you are good at organization for now. For now, right? And then maybe you might learn something. Maybe you end up owning the center. We don't know. But if we're not exploring and then tapping into that and practicing these things, we'll never know where we could be.
Yeah, and this reminds me of a earlier episode this season with Camila Martin, Catalyst. She basically helps Black women who want to, start consulting and utilize their skills in that way. And we're seeing a lot of people, Black women in particular, exploring some of these more quote unquote non-traditional paths because they've been laid off or because they need flexibility because now they're caretakers for their parents while they're also caretakers for their children, right? And so I love just having options, right?
Yes.
Having options. Now, for some people, I can already through the podcast waves, I can already feel some of the anxiety because they're used to the job with that benefits package and all of that. So you can do that, but I love just knowing there are options. If something changes, if the layoff letter hits your desk, that you have these skills that you can use to take care of you and your family, even if it doesn't necessarily look like the traditional path you were on before.
Absolutely. And I think it's a sign of courage for us to be thinking about various streams of income in this time of our economy. There's no shame in it. There's no shame if you got a job stack right now. It is a preference for me, but if it's not for someone else and it's temporary for you, at least you know that you can use AI responsibly. You're not using it to harm people, to find a way for you and your family.
Yep. Now, I want to, because I have heard, and we did an episode, I think maybe a season or two ago, about people who were like, they were working like 2 full-time jobs. This came up with the virtual work and all that kind of stuff. So we know that the job stacking, the skill stacking, they come with both advantages and challenges, right? What should people consider as we talk about some of these, maybe leveraging these different opportunities so it doesn't lead to burnout, right? Or that you're not doing too much. It's supporting that career growth, your resilience, your values alignment, but also your wellness. Any insights or thoughts you have around that?
Yeah, I would just say don't take on anything that doesn't feel like it's something that you can do. So for instance, part of this designing is, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 hours a week. So that's not a lot, but it's still powerful for me. I still get a sense of fulfillment. I still have time to do other things, but I'm helping to shape, the minds of future students. So I would say just if you can, I know it's probably, it can be tough for some people, but just don't take on anything. That's part of where we have to trust and have a bit of faith that we are supposed to be where we're going to be where we're supposed to be. But it takes practice and it takes courage. And be okay if you need to step back from it and say, this is just too much. I can't do it. I have signed up for a few things that I thought I could do. And then 3 months in, I said, I'm sorry. I am not going to be able to meet the demands of this particular engagement.
Yep. Yep. So the boundaries are there. And what I'm hearing is we can change our mind at any time.
You can.
Hello.
That's
Yep.
what evolution is about.
Yes, we can change our mind anytime. Okay, this is so good. I do want to ask you a couple of our season themed questions around leaning into joy. But before we transition there, is there any kind of final notes or things you want to say on this topic of amplifying your strengths, using AI as a support to do that? Any final thoughts you have on that?
I want to say that it takes practice. So I am someone who has been on a self-discovery journey most of my life. And so, but it wasn't until AI that brought this kind of emergence of me pushed out into the leadership space that I said, I really just need to take some time. And so it takes practice. You go and you do something and you say, oh, I do like panels. I don't like 5-person panels. I like 3-person panels, or I prefer a fireside chat or something. So it takes practice to get there and to give yourself some grace. We haven't been here before, at least not that I know of. And so we're all trying to figure things out together. The other thing I would say is, as best as you can, don't let anyone dim your light. You know how it feels when someone is celebrating you, and you know how it feels when someone is throwing some shade or is not supportive. Maybe they're not intentionally throwing shade. And as my father would say before he passed, get happy as fast as you can. So I internalize that to mean clear the space as quick as you can, because that's your power, is your space, that safe space that you create for yourself, that you then invite people in or out whenever you want. So those would be the things that I would leave with there.
I love that. And this is just a funny story. I just want to mention this from our talk. This is how Dr. Adams is really doing this. She's not just talking about it, she's doing it. So we were on the call planning for the podcast. She's also speaking at the conference. So if this job stacking, skill stacking, all of this is vibing with you, y'all need to come on and be in the room, because you're going to get to ask her some one-on-one questions. But nonetheless, so we're talking, and now we're shifted and we've left the podcast and we're talking about the conference. And originally my vision was more of a keynote kind of thing, that she was going to be on the stage talking, whatever the case. And she was like, you know what I'm really enjoying more is the fireside chat. Can I do that instead? And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, let's do that. But I think this is a powerful lesson about amplifying your own strengths and boldly leaning into them. So she asked for what she want. Now I had a format for my event. I done changed the format because what she said, and I'm like, you know what? That would be good. So she influenced me. That's one lesson. But this is the extension. She's talking on one day. We have another person in the same slot on a different day that was supposed to be a keynote, but because she put the fireside, guess what? They doing the fireside chat too. So she done influenced the whole doggone event by leaning into her strength, right? And I think that's just a lesson of what happens, right? When we really boldly claim that, lean into it, not only do we get the benefit, but other people start getting the benefit too. Right?
Absolutely. And guess what? You could have said, which has happened to me, thank you, but this is what our format is. And if this doesn't work, I understand. And that has happened. And I say, I understand, because it's your event, not you, but someone else. And I was prepared for that. Does that make sense? But it also didn't mean that I was willing to compromise where I know I'm my best. And so what I'm grateful for, again, is that you create different spaces for us to lead and to showcase our skill sets and to be leading with our strengths. So I'm grateful and thank you for that. But yes, I was willing to be, I understand.
I love
so to your point, yes, be bold with it and be willing to say, okay, I understand.
Because she said this gives the best. And I'm like, well, baby, I want the best. So let's go on and do what the best requires. Okay. But the other thing I think, just one more lesson I think is so powerful to pull from this, right, is if you wouldn't have asked, if you wouldn't have taken the opportunity to ask, there was never an opportunity for it to happen. So often we're like, I'm not going to say it because they might say no. Well, baby, if you don't say it, there's no opportunity for them to say yes.
Say
Right.
it.
And
Say
you've heard
it.
no a million times. So one more time
Yes,
ain't going to hurt you.
absolutely. Or
You
I
might as
would
well
have been
try.
sitting around like, oh, I don't even want to do this, but she asked and she's doing these great things for Black women, and here I go pretending again. I just wasn't willing to do that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
love it.
so, yes, that's why I'm so excited now.
I love it. I affirm it. I affirm it. Okay. So we've talked a little bit and you kind of shared, but I'll still ask you the question because there might be some more insight.
Mm-hmm.
When you talked about clearing out space and like, how do I want to do that? It was about creating a fulfilling experience for yourself, right? But
Yes.
I'll ask you because there might be some more context. This season, we're really exploring this idea of leaning into joy and how we can
Mm-hmm.
intentionally create those spaces. As you think about your leadership and your career journey, what role has joy or even creative fulfillment, if we use that language from a professional space, played in how you lead and make decisions? And I think you just shared a little bit with
Mm-hmm.
even our conference example, but there might be some more insight there.
Yeah. Honestly, I want to feel good all the time. And so
Yeah.
that's my North Star. How can I feel my absolute optimal best 100% of the time? Well, living life, we might not, but what are the things I can do? And so for every email that I get, can you do this? Can you help with this? We'd love for you to do this. That's my marker. What's
Yeah.
the absolute highest point of joy I can get in this? And
Yeah.
so, and I'll give you an example. Someone called me from a college and asked me, they originally wanted me to do the keynote. I told them it was going to be fireside chat. They came back and said that I wanted to do a fireside chat. They came back and said, would you do a panel instead? It's going to be, and I said, how many people? So we did that. And then we started talking about like compensation. And compensation is not always the same amount every time I do something.
Right.
But if you put me on a platform where I can be my 100% truest self, I'm less concerned with the money than I am with the joy. And so, because what happens is these opportunities come from me being joyful. Like someone will see me and they're like, oh, I saw you or I heard you. Would you be willing to? And then maybe that opportunity is where the financial gain comes from.
Yeah.
But so my markers are every email that I reply to, or someone has a request or they want me to come and do something or whatever it is. My marker is what's the optimal joy that I can reach in this moment and in that experience. So that's how I look at it. But I didn't always look at it. It used to be, oh my gosh, this is a great opportunity. And LinkedIn has reached out and asked me to do some updated courses. And then I went back and said, I'm better at the shorter courses than I am the longer courses. So guess what? I don't do the longer courses. That might mean 5 opportunities I didn't get.
Yeah.
But what they would have gotten is someone who just wasn't happy. And so for my shorter course, my LinkedIn course, Leading Responsible AI in Organizations, it's 30 minutes. Each module is 2 minutes. That fits me. I can be a little bit more, you know what I'm saying, joyful. And so my marker is what is the highest point of happiness and joy that I can experience in that moment or in that effort.
I love that. Joy as a metric, right?
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Has your definition of joy shifted over time though? Like what is joyful to you now? Is that different from?
Yeah. Well, I will say this. What's different is I did not think that Black women could experience unadulterated joy.
Wow.
I didn't think that was possible for us. And I, in fact, said this to someone about 15 years ago, and they felt so bad for me. And I'm like, oh my God, here we go, trauma bonding. I didn't mean for you to take that on what I was saying. I was just saying it out loud. But what I realized was that I had been trying to get joy externally. Maybe if I get a new job, maybe if I move to a new city, maybe if, I write a different book, maybe if I do something. Do you see what I'm saying? It was always external. And so the unadulterated joy has come from inside, and it has come from saying yes to more of the things that I feel good about. Like I'm an opulence, affluent person. I'm a travel snob. I need to travel a certain way.
Yes, we love
And
it.
that's part of where joy comes from. I don't want to compromise on that.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but then there are some other ways where I still get joy if I go to the Goodwill and find a good deal.
Yes.
Right. Maybe there's a skillet I was looking for, a cast iron
Yeah.
skillet. I'm like, oh, $4? Like
Yeah.
that's joy too. You see what I'm saying? Like my arc around joy is expensive perfume or, some silverware at the Goodwill. I'm just using that as an example. And so, but yeah, so it has changed over time because my belief was that we were not due or could not ever obtain unadulterated joy as a Black woman. And part of that was because I lumped myself into this Black woman story about all the harms that we experience. And we do.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah.
But I found that my friendships were based on that same story as well.
Yeah.
And we were not experiencing joy because we took on this broad kind of trauma that we experience as a group. And so what I realized is that if I'm going to have joy around me and help other women experience joy, not just women, children, family, whomever, I got to find out what it looks like and what it feels like. And I feel like I've done a really good job of that because I put in the work.
Ooh, look, I got a little chill. When I get a little chill, that means it's good. So good. Oh, this has been so good talking to you, Dr. Adams. How can people connect with you beyond this podcast? What special stuff you have going on that people need to know about?
Yeah, so didn't talk a lot about my work in AI, and that was intentional. But if you want to go to my website, eadams.tech, I have a ton of leadership guides. So things about infographics, about fairness in AI, accountability in AI bias. I have primes. I have executive briefs for women to talk about how they might be thinking about some trends in AI. Mm-hmm. I also have a website for my children's books, emabooks.com. So I have 4 children's books, 2 are in hardcover, Little AI and PD. That's really to help parents and caregivers talk to children about safe technology. Another book, Little Miss Minnesota and Her 6 Brothers, is about me and the loving relationship I have with my brothers growing up here in Minnesota. And then 2 other ebooks that have sing-alongs and read-alouds. And then an organization I recently founded, the Minnesota Responsible AI Institute. That website is www.mnrai.com. If you're interested in how we are approaching AI to connect workforce innovation, sustainability, to get to economic success,
yes,
we do a number of workshops and advisory for organizations, and you can see all of that there. We have frameworks and all the things. And then, of course, I'm very active on LinkedIn.
Awesome. So we'll have all of those links in our show notes. You all make sure you are following, connecting, especially if you desire to really kind of leverage AI. You see that as a pillar you can add to your career profile, your leader arc. You definitely need to be following Dr. Adams because she's doing some amazing work. All right, y'all. We hope you enjoyed this episode. I know I certainly did and had some takeaways. If you did, share this with someone. Share this with a friend, a colleague that can benefit from this type of dialogue that we're having. We're on all major podcast platforms, so you can follow us. We also are on YouTube at Black Woman Leading. So you can listen and watch us there on YouTube as well. If you want to connect with us on socials, we are at Black Woman Single, at Black Woman Leading on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. You can also visit our website at blackwomanleading.com if you want to learn about our programs, upcoming events we have. If you want to connect with me personally, I am at Laura E. Knights on Instagram and also very active on LinkedIn. Would love to connect with you personally there. And then finally, if you want to learn about the work that we're doing inside of organizations to help them build programs for their leaders, for highly effective leaders, highly effective teams, you can check out our corporate site at knightsconsultinggroup.com. We would love to connect with you in any of these ways. And until next time, be well.